Let's do it. We're here. Date night. It's date night. The wife's here.
Bye.
The wife is here, and it's always a special time when the wife is here. Let's get right into it. It's called the, let me say it myself, Calhoun Experiment.
You got it.
Okay. I don't know why I kept messing that name up. I kept saying like Calhoun and stuff like that.
Oh.
But yeah, it's a pretty weird experiment, and I like these experiments that correlate into what's happening today or what's been going on for the past, 10 decades, maybe 10 decades. If you look back far enough, maybe. You never know. Yeah, exactly. So let's get right into that. Before we do, of course, I have to bring you to the store made by this lovely lady. We got the newest design here. It's a sold not for sale shirt with the American flag atop of it, stars and stripes. And my favorite, my personal favorite, is the Great Resist. Do not join the Great Reset. Join the Great Resist instead, where you can be married to a wife or a husband. You don't have to be referred to as cis. You can not eat crickets if you so choose. The good life, the good old days. I have a bit that I'm working on where I talk about how I feel like an old white man because I'm like searching for the good old days. Back in the day when we can just say things and do things. I so identify with that. I used to hear old white guys say stuff like that, and I'd be like, oh, is that bigot? And now I'm just like, no. He gets it. The old days. You want to go back to the old days. But yeah, if you've purchased anything from that site, thank you so much. And for 10% off, put in the discount code area. I am Coach Colin. That's all one word, all capital letters, 1 L on the Colin gets you 10% off. And for anybody wondering, I know that you can't see my wife. She knows it as well. There's a lot of people who keep saying, we can only see the hands. Show the hands, honey. Hello. We're fully aware. Somebody, when the time comes, somebody has to be able to take the kids to the grocery store without getting egged or tomatoes thrown at them. I'll take the tomatoes for us, honey.
Thank you.
But yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into this interesting topic. And whoever was in the comment section of the last video that we did together when we were doing another experiment, I forget which one was it that we did.
Bow doll or...
What was the other one?
Grove something.
I can't remember it.
I can't remember either.
One of the experiments. I think it was the Bobo doll one. Somebody actually commented and suggested this experiment.
Oh, perfect.
And if you have any suggestions for us in terms of experiments that are very interesting, please link it in the comments or just write it in the comments and we'll research it. We'll look into it and see if it makes a cut.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Okay, well, the Calhoun experiment is based on like rats and mice and population density and what that will do to your psychology. So the guy who started this was John B. Calhoun, and he actually coined the term behavioral sync, and we'll get into a little bit why that's important in a while.
This is him, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
That's the guy.
He looks like he's a little off.
Like he likes playing with rats.
Like he would be the type to be like, listen, these humans are just like rats. Let me finish in the back. They're just like rats. Just let me explain. I'll show you guys. And then he just made this whole thing up. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically he made like cages, like rooms in this barn that he had access to, and he divided these cages into 4 different sections or rooms. Perfect, there it is. And he put enough rats in it that each of the rooms would be comfortable to house a quarter of the rats. So he started off, they weren't overpopulated, it was just regular, they would have been comfortable and fine. And they made one of the rooms the feeding room. So what they noticed happening was all of the rats from the other rooms would go over to feed, of course, but then wouldn't go back. So they ended up all squished into one of the 4 quadrants. Yeah, weird, eh?
Wait, so they'd all have their own rooms.
Yeah.
They'd go into another room to feed.
Yep.
Even though their room had, like,
no, so
resources?
only one of the rooms had food.
Okay.
But it had food enough for all of the rats. Like they were calling it like a rat utopia.
Okay.
So there was plenty of food. It's not like anybody was going hungry. But instead of going back to their room where there was more space, they would just stay in that one room where they knew the food was coming from.
Okay, so they'd stay close.
Yeah, so they would stay close to the food source, even though there was no food scarcity at all, or water scarcity, no resource scarcity at all. So they would end up staying there and get really, really overpopulated in that area. And of course, rats being rats, they populate very, very quickly.
Of course.
So they were finding as they were having babies, the babies would still stay in the same room.
Yeah.
So all of these like empty rooms, and then all these rats who are suffering in a very high density environment because that's where the food is. So that's where the term behavioral sink comes from, because they ended up going into, like, if you think about like a sink, like a curve in the ground.
Yeah.
So they would end up going into there because that's where all the resources are.
Ah.
And they would stay there. And what they found would happen to the rats is there was obviously a huge increase in not only infant mortality, because they were probably being trampled and everything else, all the baby rats.
Of course.
There wasn't enough space for them. But they were also finding really weird psychological changes in the adults in regards to reproduction. So what did they find? He said some very specific things. So it said many female rats were unable to carry pregnancy to full term or to survive delivery of their litters if they did. An even greater number, after successfully giving birth, fell short in their maternal functions. So they were terrible mothers and didn't take care of their babies. Among the males, the behavior disturbances ranged from sexual deviation to cannibalism, and from frenetic overactivity to a pathological withdrawal from which individuals would emerge to eat, drink, and move about only when other members of the community were asleep.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wait. Eat, drink, only... Wait, what when other...
Eat, drink, and move about only when the others were asleep. So they would just like hide, and they wouldn't want to be around the crowds because they would just withdraw and isolate themselves because it was just too much.
It's like Uber Eats.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. I have to do Uber Eats all the time, and it's crazy how many people you will put the food down and you'll walk away, and then they'll open the door.
So they don't even want to see you.
They know. Like, they're like, okay, he dropped it. Now I can go.
Yeah.
Rather than actually have that interaction of like, here you go. Thanks, man. And walking away. It's really weird.
Interesting.
Really weird.
But yeah, I found that really interesting part of that was the males changing their behavior. So they have sexual deviation all of a sudden.
Like become gay?
It's possible, yeah. They said later on that it resulted in homosexuality as well as cannibalism, which is so important too, to know that they were cannibalizing each other because there was no scarcity of food ever.
Yeah.
They would increase the food supply with the population to make sure that there was no food scarcity because they didn't want that to affect the results of this experiment.
Yeah, true. And they would still...
So they were just going nuts because they were all shoved together. But they weren't even shoved together. There was plenty of space. They just chose not to use it.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's really weird.
You know what it makes me think of right away? And I should do more research on the size of like China. But like, do all those people have to be crammed together the way they are? Like, I know yeah, it's making me think, like, all these large cities, like, couldn't they span out
100%.
and like go to the places where there's not many people?
Yeah. Especially given, like, in our Western world, there's resources pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
Unless you're like way far off, like in a mountain or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no resource scarcity for the most part.
For you to be packed up in a city.
Yeah.
Huh. That is
weird, eh? Especially with all the new like huge apartment buildings. It's just like everybody's all packed together.
Yeah, true. That's interesting to think about.
Yeah.
Huh. Because you think of like Canada. Canada just hit 40 million people, and they're like, oh my god, there's too many people here. It's like
I think there's more than 40 million in California.
Isn't it like the same? Isn't Canada the same size as the US? Bigger. We're
the second largest country in the world.
So then if it's bigger, if Canada's bigger, okay, it makes sense.
But also with Canada, there's so much more uninhabitable land. I think it's 90% of the population lives within 100 miles of the US border.
That's just not true. Uninhabitable land. That's not true. It can't be true.
Well, if you think about where would you want to live?
Think about Texas.
Yeah.
Right? Can't have basements in Texas. Think about Florida. You can't have basements in Florida. I'm sure at one point they looked at that land as uninhabitable to an extent because you couldn't go a certain depth and you couldn't have a certain foundation. I don't know. When somebody says uninhabitable, it's like, to what extent? Like,
I'm talking about like Arctic Circle.
Okay, so yeah, okay. But even that, like, I don't know. Think of Alaska. Like, obviously Alaska's not as bad.
Yeah.
There's people living there, but I don't know. It's very.
And there's people in northern Canada still, but it's just different. Like people, it's like you can't.
It just makes me think. Like, are we packing ourselves in?
Yeah.
You know, because when you look at a city, like in China, like when you look at China's traffic, it's crazy,
insane.
For days, people leave their cars,
and they have those roads that are like 16 lanes across.
Yeah, and they come back like a week later for their car. 5 days later. They're just
on the road.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
They'll leave it. They'll be like, I'm just gonna walk.
Oh my gosh, I didn't.
You know what I mean? It's really weird. Like, does that need to happen, or is this some kind of mechanism that we also have, or are city officials setting things up a certain way so people feel like they have, or is it just natural? Like you build the city that has the resources and has everything you need. Do people just like, oh, I'm just going to be here. I'm just going to be close. I'm just going to be close. I'm just going to
just gravitate towards it.
You know? Mm-hmm. I don't know. That makes me think.
Well, it's interesting, too, the part about mortality rates in mothers who were giving birth. Said most of them like wouldn't even make it through birth.
That's a weird thing, too. Yeah,
especially when you consider the maternal mortality rate in the United States has gone up very alarmingly in the past year.
Really?
Yes.
In the past year?
Yeah. Wow. Like, I know there's some other things going on. Shocker.
In the past year. Sure, it's in the past 4 years for sure.
Well, yeah, the spike was 2022. I think they just got data from, and it was like more than triple the years before.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. More than triple the years before.
Like, absolutely, like, people should be talking about this, like, from every rooftop, because it's absolutely disgusting that they're letting this happen.
Damn. That's sad.
And it's not, like, on the news or anything.
That's very sad.
Yeah.
Damn.
I only heard about that from some, like, random Instagram video. And then looked into it, and it's real.
Wow. Jeez. So,
Yeah, but if you start to think about, so this is, like, the collapse of the rat and mice societies when this starts to happen, and you see maternal mortality rates go up, infant mortality rates go up, higher sexual deviancy, like issues with antisocial behaviors, and that's like everything we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you see the kids, when you see like young, like, you know, little kids, it's one thing. They're kind of like that, but I guess little kids are always like that to an extent. You know, like 5, 6, you know, they want their parents around and stuff. They're easily freaked out by people, large crowds.
Yeah.
When you see teenagers that are like that, that's weird. That's very odd. And you see that a lot now. Like, I am often, because, you know, I walk every day, and there's a lot of people who, they really, you can tell they're really trying to avoid a social interaction.
Yeah, for sure.
And you even see it when, like, we're seeing kids, because, like, we live near a bunch of schools. You see that with the kids as well. They're, like, very to themselves. Even around each other, they're very to themselves.
Yeah.
Very odd. Very, very weird. Ugh. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of this. And I mean, even to the cannibalism point, like, we don't see that outright, you know, in the sense of cannibalism as we know it, but we do see, we are willing to socially cannibalize one another.
Even like cancel culture.
Yeah, exactly. Like, cancel culture
down.
is like cannibalism.
Yeah, that's
we find somebody, they've broken a leg. You know, that's how we would look at it if we were, like, out in the jungle.
True.
They've broken a leg. They're down for the count.
And we put them real down.
Yeah, and then everybody just swarms, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, you saw it recently with, like, Jonah Hill. You know, Jonah Hill had a baby. Then all of a sudden this girl releases some text messages. Then all of a sudden a bunch of women jump on and say he's abusive. Then another lady releases something. Then a random guy actor, Canadian dude that, like, nobody even know. I can't even repeat his name. You'd know his face if I was able to pull it up, but I don't even know his name to pull it up. So then he's like, you know, whoa, the acting I did with him was based on real life. Like I actually didn't like him. And it's
oh
like,
my God,
why are
what
you,
an idiot.
why are you coming forward? Like
you don't
now?
have anything to do with this.
Just to say you didn't like him. The weirdest thing. Like
Yeah,
you went to
ridiculous.
a paper, you made a comment to an outlet. Just,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
No.
But that's
that is cannibalism.
Right?
That's disgusting. It's just like feeding on literally somebody else's energy.
Yeah.
And success.
Yeah.
And trying to take them down.
Really interesting to think about. We constantly do it.
That's so crazy.
And that's something that's spiked up in the past, I'd say 5
I would say
years.
5 as well.
5, maybe 6 years. We've seen a lot of like people worrying about cancellation. Very much worrying about cancellation.
Yeah.
You know?
And even for things they did like 10, 15 years ago. And then things will come to light and it's as if they did it in this climate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even though we all know things were different.
That's constant.
Even in like the early 2000s. Like it doesn't sound like that far off.
Yeah.
But things are different. Things change.
Things were much different.
Culture evolves.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't vilify somebody for doing something that was culturally appropriate when they did it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I don't know. What else went on with this experiment?
That was pretty much it. But there was also one that he did with mice. And basically, they became extinct because they couldn't reproduce. And they lost the social skills necessary to mate. So they ended up just dying out.
That's happening too.
Yeah, well, even if you think about like
that's happening right
the
now.
age of reproduction is getting higher and higher and higher. So it's like women are waiting to have children, having less children. And that happens in a lot of kind of advanced societies.
Very true. And you're noticing, I remember from watching like a lot of Kevin Samuels content, a lot of these women that he would talk to that were in the upper ages of reproducing, it's like they didn't even realize they were doing it. Like they didn't realize. It's like they just like, they're like, and now I'm 36 and I don't know, I'm almost 40 and and it's like, didn't you know? Like you
exactly.
But you know how a woman's body works. You've been taught this. Like,
it's weird. It's like they're shocked.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like they woke up one day and they're 36.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. So it's like right now when we're talking about these mice, it's like they don't know that that's happening.
That's true.
Even with a lot of young men, you could be talking to somebody, right? Like there could be someone watching right now and they don't realize that they're antisocial.
Yeah.
You know? Like you don't realize it, especially if you're on Twitter and you feel like you're in the crowd of Twitter and you're in the crowd
and you're like
of
talking
Instagram.
to people.
Yeah, and you're commenting and you're watching and you feel like you're taking part, but you don't realize you're being completely antisocial.
Yeah, but you don't even like making eye contact with the grocery store person.
Yeah. Like you can't do it properly.
Yeah.
It's weird. And I notice that so much in younger people. And just random people, because I'm like into that. I'll say, hey, what's up?
Yeah,
hey,
you always do.
What's going on?
All the time.
You good? And like they just don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
It's getting very, very interesting to see. But it reminds me, I have a friend, he's super successful. And before he became super successful, he would always say, sounds really bad. He's a CEO now, so it kind of makes sense. He would be like, you got to be thankful for the morons. They make us look good.
Wow.
He would always say that. He'd be like, you got to. Like, anytime we'd have, like, an interaction with somebody that was, like, an NPC or, like, a sim, they'd be like, oh. He'd be like, you got to thank God for him, man. He's like, they're making us look good.
That's so funny.
And it's just interesting to see, or in future times to see who rises to the top. And are you rising to the top because you're actually super intelligent, or is it because everybody else is going down in social interaction? Because that's a big part of success.
True.
How socially interactive you can be.
Yeah, networking.
Networking, how many hard conversations you can have. It's all linked towards how successful you're going to be.
Yeah.
If you can't do those things, it gets really hard.
That's true.
Somebody at that point, when social interaction becomes so hard for you, you become, for lack of a better word, you become very directable. I was going to say like cattle. You become very directable. You're going to do somebody else. Somebody else is going to just bring you into their dream and be like, okay, just work here, stand here and pick this thing. And
yeah, and you're going to do it forever.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to have more interactions.
Yeah. As much as you could, like, you're trying to avoid it as much as possible. Really weird. You're lucky. You're lucky that you worked in, like, think about that. Think about the way the world works. You're so lucky that you left school and went and worked in the restaurant industry.
That's true.
You got such an exposure to people.
Yeah.
And managing people.
I was so shy.
Yeah, I bet.
I was like nervous to go up to tables and say hello.
For sure.
And I had to like talk myself into it and be like, they want you to go over. That's the whole point.
Yeah, they need you. But yeah, 100%. You know, and that's why I'm always so opposed to self-checkout, because that was like a thing for a young person to do, and it would get them socially into speaking to older people and people of all walks of life. You had to. Somebody would come and you'd say hello. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes they're a character, sometimes they don't want to say anything, and you start to gain the skill of feeling out social interactions.
Yeah.
This person's going to talk to me. This person doesn't want to talk to me. It's okay if they don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
It's fine if they do. I can go back and forth with this person, you know?
Same thing, like as a kid in restaurants, my parents always made us order for ourselves.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, that's good. That's always been hard for me.
Yeah, you can't just like...
That's still hard for me. I talk all the time. I do like an hour of content a day, and that's still like...
Yeah, and then you see a menu and you're like,
It's hard. It's very hard.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. I'm working on it. A little bit.
And even I used to be nervous about like on the phone, like calling to order pizza.
Oh, yeah. I remember. Yeah, that's been recent.
Still don't like doing that.
Yeah.
So my mom always used to make me do that too.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
And like order Chinese food.
You got to do that. Like, we're not going to call out the people that we know, but they have a kid that doesn't talk. And we're always like, we're never going to allow our kids.
True, that would be a good like little skill builder.
Yeah. Like this family just, they have a kid, you know, and the kid doesn't talk, and they're just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like so not fine. It's so crazy.
Yeah, funny.
It's very weird. It's very weird. But I love them.
Yeah.
Of course. But it's just like, all the time you think of that, and it's like, you can't have your kid be like that.
Yeah.
Not talk to people. Because, you know, you don't want them to be shy, and you also don't want them to be rude. And then again, back to success. Like any success that you have, it's going to be because you spoke to somebody and you overcame a little fear, or you accepted an opportunity, you know, like that's always the link to it. Whether it's a job interview and you got it, or you asked for a raise or a promotion and you got it, like it's always going to be talking to a person.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
everything in life.
Yeah, very, very.
Even like trying to get a loan at the bank, you have to go talk to a person.
And you have to be good.
Yeah.
You have to be confident.
Yeah.
You have to really know what you're talking about. You have to be personable.
Yeah.
And as
like
much as
they have to believe in you.
Yeah. And if you're not that personable, or you rub them the wrong way, you won't get it.
Yeah.
And that's like a lot of things in life. A lot. I don't know. So it's interesting to see that. And you know what else is interesting about this this subject is that in The Matrix they talk about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Smith agent talking about, this is probably exactly where they got it from, but the Smith agent's like, you know, this is not the first time that we've done this, because, you know, the whole Matrix is just like a setup.
Yeah.
He goes, the earlier versions, we gave you guys everything you could possibly want.
Like the Utopia.
You created a utopia, and your simple minds couldn't handle it.
Interesting.
Like, people needed the friction of having to work and you
Yeah.
know, all the hard things that you have to do throughout life. Like, apparently, like, you know, obviously it's a movie, but when they gave people everything, they just went nuts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that in The Matrix, they are comparing it to this experiment for sure.
Yeah.
But people are like that as well.
Yeah,
like, you see
that's
that.
true.
You see that in relationships. You see that with people who are famous, rich. Like, how many times do you look at a rich person and they're doing something crazy, or, you know, or they assault themselves or whatever, what have you, and you're just like, how are you doing any of that right now? Like, you're rich. You're rich. Just stop doing the thing and just have your money and go be rich.
There's
and for some reason they can't do it.
A movie on Amazon Prime with Salma Hayek and Owen Wilson.
Oh,
and the whole premise of the movie is that these people live in like a society where everything's always amazing and it's great. And it means that they can't appreciate it anymore. So Salma Hayek plays like a doctor who basically it's like mental vacations to a horrible place. so that you go there and it's like people are homeless. It looks like a really nasty rundown city of today. So you can kind of experience what life is like, and it's very like accelerated. So they go through quite a long time in this mental state.
But like quick.
Yeah. But like quick in like the real world.
Yes.
And then they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. They just have like new eyes for it because you don't have the contrast.
Yeah. That's funny. That's really funny. Let me hold on. I'm just gonna reset this thing. But I've had that exact experience, and I remember we were dating, but I called you. I told you that I love you because I was so appreciative because I was so high on mushrooms. That I thought I was gonna have to go to a mental institution. Everything was like really hard, and I talk about it often. I was like naked in my washroom, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is terrible. Life is." And I remember I was like, if I get out of this, I'm gonna be much more appreciative. And then when I did, I was like, it changed. I called you. I called one of my best friends, told him that I loved him, buddy Mike. And yeah, it was very interesting. And that's what you need. You can't have things be super good all the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you do need the contrast, you know. I had that same contrast before. Yeah, I guess you do need that because it's hard to appreciate. Because I remember when we first moved in together, I was really down on my situation. I think I told you. And then randomly some homeless dude came up to me, and I was leaving the grocery store, and he didn't say he was homeless because he had a little bit of pride, but he was just like, do you have any money? And I was like, no, all I have is my credit card. Right. And that was like the first thing, like, do you have any money? And I was like, no, because I was always so down. I'm like, I don't have any money, but I had a credit card with money on it.
Yeah.
So it was like that first little like bing, like you should be grateful for that. And then I called him back. And I'm like, yo, I can buy you, like, what do you want? He's like, I just want coffee. I'm like, okay.
Aww.
I'm like, I can do that. And that was another thing. Like, I have the ability to just buy someone coffee. And then we were walking, and he's like, I was wearing those super colorful shoes I have. Yeah. He was like, those are really nice shoes. And then he was like, I wear my shoes out. Because he was like, because I walk so much. Because he didn't want to say, like, I'm homeless. But he's like, I walk a lot. He's like, I got to walk, like, all day. He's like, so I wear mine out quick. And that was another thing. I'm like, because I was like, my wife, I think you got them for me.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I got you the first one.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, my wife, is a present, blah, blah, blah. Another thing to be grateful for. And then I got him the coffee, and I was just like, fuck. I'm like, I'm doing all right. Like, I'm doing much better than I'm giving myself credit for, Yeah. I remember. Such an interesting thing. And I didn't get his name, nothing. And then he disappeared. He's like an angel.
There you go. Sent to put your perspective in place.
Yeah, it was weird. Because, they always say, like, if an angel were to come, he's going to come as, like, a homeless guy.
Yeah.
He's going to do something. If God comes down, he's going to be, like, all raggedy. And he's going to, like, nudge you a little bit.
And see how people treat them.
But literally, like, I gave it to him, and I think we just walked from, like, that to that. We just were, like, spanning away from each other. And I got to my car, and I looked. I'm like,
wow.
Where'd he go? Like, oh, he's walking. I'm like, oh, he said he walks a lot. And I was like, that was it. But I remember that changed my whole positioning. It was like I went into that little thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I got that little time warp. It felt like it felt very long, the whole walk and talking and everything, but it was like quick. And then all of a sudden I was like back in my real life, and I was like, I got a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'm doing good,
But really. It's nice too, like thinking about those things and knowing you need the contrast, because then it makes you more grateful for sometimes the hardships.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have those, you wouldn't appreciate the good things either.
Yeah.
So like looking back on your life, like even if things were hard, it just makes where you are now seem so much better. So much better. I think of that. And you say that to me all the time, like, oh, what would the person 5 years ago would think of you, Yeah. You often say that, and it's like, it's a good thing to keep in mind. For sure.
It's a really good thing to keep in mind. So you don't become like one of these rats.
Yeah.
And it's funny that we call it the rat race.
True.
In life. You get caught in the rat race.
Yeah.
You want to be so close to the food and everything. Oof.
Yeah. Always fighting for resources even when they're there.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? We're fighting over like back in 2020, there was probably enough toilet paper for everybody.
Oh, for sure.
But everybody
hoarded
crazy. It. Everyone went nuts.
And then there was like a limit on like bread. I'm sure there's enough bread in the world for everyone. Just chill.
There was, but everybody was like, they were near the food and they needed it and they wanted it and they were like, I got to keep it. Same thing happened with hand sanitizer.
Yes,
like everything.
It was
gloves,
so stupid.
Everything.
My dad went to the grocery store and tried to get hamburger buns, a loaf of bread, and tortillas. And they wouldn't let him because they said 2 bread products per person.
Yeah.
So you can't hoard.
Isn't that something?
It was ridiculous.
They were trying to normalize. That was some Soviet stuff. They're trying to normalize there for a second. But yeah. And again, back to the question that always comes up with these studies. What were they trying to find out?
Yeah.
What were they using that for?
I don't know, but I found it interesting too because John Calhoun worked for the National Institute for Mental Health, which is also called NIMH. And as soon as I saw the acronym NIMH, have you ever seen the movie The Rats of NIMH?
Wow, no.
I used to love this movie as a kid, and as I was reading this article about this study, it literally like set a light off in my brain, being like, I know what this is. And it's like an animated kids movie.
Is this it?
I can't see from here.
I don't know.
Hold on, let me see.
I'm seeing Mrs. Frisbee.
I just searched
and the Rats
NIMH.
of NIMH.
Oh, sorry, The Secret of NIMH.
The Secret of NIMH. Oh.
That's what it's called.
Whoa. And what's the acronym stand for?
National Institute for Mental Health. And it's the whole movie was about this like mouse mother who had, I don't know, some issue with she couldn't get food for her kids. So these rats who were hyper intelligent helped her, and they were the rats of NIMH. And I never made that connection as a kid, never looked into what it meant. I was like, oh, NIMH, that's a funny word.
Yeah, of course.
And then I saw this article and I just had like a poof, like epiphany.
That's really weird.
How crazy is that? It's just this kids movie, but it was made in 1974.
Wow. Interesting.
And Calhoun was doing these experiments like in the early 60s.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Crazy, eh?
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So that's obviously what it stood for.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. Because they're like rats that escaped from a lab.
So the intelligence ones.
Yes.
Were the ones that would be considered like outside of NIMH. Like they understood the secret of it all. Like she would be the mother that's like inside the
No, she was just like on a farm. The mom. And the rats had escaped from the nearby lab.
Oh, they actually escaped from the lab.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were just using it as a metaphor. Like
no, I wasn't.
Wow.
They literally escaped. Literally, that was the movie.
So they were super smart because they escaped from a lab.
Because they were being like tested on and they were made hyper intelligent.
And they were teaching her like how to get food.
I don't know. They were just helping her get food for her babies.
So
I don't remember the movie that much.
So they escaped from the national.
NIMH.
What is it? National
Institute of Mental Health.
Of Mental Health. Whoa.
How crazy is that?
Is that a Disney?
I don't know if it's Disney.
Probably Disney. It's probably Disney.
MGM.
MGM, true. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, release date 1982.
I like that.
How crazy is that?
Jeez.
That's what we were downstairs like looking over basic info for this before we came up here to film this, and that's the thing that I was like, oh, I'll tell you during the podcast.
Oh, true.
Because I was like, oh,
that's very, very interesting.
how great! I love that movie. It's great.
There you go. And it's like, that's very interesting to think about. Very.
We should watch it now. It's not that long.
Really?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime.
Because it's like, at the same time, like when you look at this, even
93% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's really good.
Of course. When you look at this, and it's like you're saying they escape, like maybe, like if you even took it deeper, it's like maybe this is the farm. You know, maybe this is like the lab they escaped from. You know.
Maybe.
Like when you think about this experiment.
Oh my God. I literally just said all these experiments were done in a barn on a farm.
Oh shit.
It could have been that farm.
There you go.
And she's just like a field mouse. She just like lives in the, like, she has like a hole in the ground where they live.
Whoa.
But that was the farm. And that's where they came from.
Whoa.
And that's why they're so close.
Whoa. Jeez.
If anybody else knows this movie, has seen this movie, please put a comment in and say if like your mind is blown right now or if you knew anything about this. Like, I want to know what other people's perception is because you haven't seen the movie. So it's like,
whoa. So if it was on a barn, a farm, and then that's very interesting.
That's
interesting
wild.
To think about. I'm sure if I watch that movie, I can get a lot of parallels between this experiment.
Sure. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes.
Really?
Yeah, it's short.
Jeez. Huh. Well, there you go.
That's incredible.
And again, back to like, what could they be using this information for? Why do they need to know that if they give all of the resources to one place that people or mice will hoard there, stay there, end up having bad fertility rates and, dying during giving birth and
sexual deviancy.
Yeah. Like why do they need to know that?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, is that impacting how they build? Is that why they build so many condos now? Is that why they build everything so close?
Yeah.
Because you could say it's for real estate purposes, higher, the land will be, the houses or condos will be worth more. You could say all that, but you could also say it's like they're setting things up a certain way. Jay-Z has a line in a song because, every time, wherever you go, like some places in the hood, black neighborhoods, urban neighborhoods, they're called the projects.
Yeah.
And he always says, he's like, why they call a project? Because it's a project. He always says that. He's like, it's a project. Like they're testing things out.
They're working on it.
Yeah. Because if you look, and this is like New York, if you look at New York and you look how it's set up, it's set up like this.
Huh.
It's really set up like this.
What do you mean? Like with the streets being all like a grid? Like,
yeah. Like, and the projects are like buildings that are like if we separate it into these 4 quadrants, it would be like apartment.
Yeah.
It would just be really clustered together.
True.
And then it just keeps going like that over and over and over again. And everything you said, the mothers become terrible. The fathers become terrible.
Well, they leave.
They have They have cannibalism of sorts.
Yeah.
Killing each other. Maybe it's not cannibalism, but they'll start killing each other. They start going into sexual deviancy, like heavily into sexual deviancy, like all sorts of stuff. It's exactly what you're talking about in the experiment happens in these neighborhoods where people are super clustered together. Super
interesting.
Clustered together. And also when you talk to a lot of those people, you'll be like, some guys will be like, I've never been to the north side of this town. Like, I've only been here. I've never left.
True.
There's so many. They'll be in their 20s. They don't leave their
quadrant.
Yeah, they do not leave. They just stay there.
Even with, like, gang activity.
Yeah.
Like, it separates
yeah.
people, so you can't go over to that side.
Exactly. If you go over there, it's a problem. Like, you could die.
Yeah.
Easily. Very easily. And they'll know. Somehow the other people will know. You're just a random person walking in, they'll know.
That's so crazy.
But I've had that too, right? I'm from a small place. I was from a small co-op. That would be considered, it's like a Jewish project of sorts. Because there's a lot of Orthodox Jewish people there, Crown Heights. And it was the same thing. If somebody came in and you didn't, like, you could just look at them and just be like, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
I know you don't belong here.
People used to, like, stare at me.
Yeah, of course.
Because they knew I'm not from there.
Yeah, they could tell. You could tell right away. You could tell the cars, everything. And for the longest time, I was that person. Like, I would never leave. I would never go anywhere. I would stay, like, within a certain...
True.
And I just stayed there. And there was no real reason for it. It was just... That's just the way it was. It was really weird. Really weird.
And they also did another scientist, who I don't know his name, it doesn't really matter, tried to do this experiment on people in 1975. Yeah.
Jesus.
But obviously, like, I don't even want to, like, look up the scientist's name because it's so stupid that he thinks this is an equivalent experiment. He got volunteer high school and university students
watch your foot there.
to kind of mimic this experiment, but it doesn't say for how long, so I'm not exactly sure how long they were in there.
Okay.
But it can have been conditions like that. Like, it's not like they're going to leave people to procreate over multiple years. Like, it's not the same.
It's not.
And he was like measuring their like stress levels and things as they were going through this experiment. And his deduction was that it doesn't apply to humans because he didn't see any increase in stress level. But that's not the same.
No, that's not the same.
So it's stupid.
Even I'm more of a scientist than this guy, because the thing that I just said about the projects, that's more of a...
Yeah, you should study that.
That's actually how it is. And when you said stress levels, they're constantly stressed.
Yeah, because they're always on edge.
Like, even like put it to like a kid who's like from Chicago, who's like not even a gangbanger, but has had 15 friends who have died, and he's like 16. It's like a constant stress that's on you. Yeah. Every time you step outside your house, there's a constant stress on you.
Yeah.
Just walking places, random places, going to the grocery store. It's always so much stress.
Yeah.
And they have all the resources that they could need in terms of like grocery stores and water and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But they all stay together, very huddled. It's very interesting to think about. And again, I wonder if someone's studying that.
I don't know.
Because there has to be a reason that they're doing... It has to be a reason that they're building like that. That they're building big clusters of buildings that all stay together. There has to be a reason for it. And it can't just be because there's no room, because there is.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about New York. There's room. There's room. There's places in New York that you can span things to upstate New York. I don't know. Like, maybe you just want to keep those type of people there. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's like Manhattan is an island and so many people are there. But then like Brooklyn, you have to like go off the island. Like so many places you do. So it's not like it's really contained anymore like it used to be, because it was just the island. Yeah. But now it just keeps spreading. So you're right. You could just keep spreading.
You could. I don't know.
But everybody wants to be close to that island.
It's weird. Yeah. Very, very weird. I like this one. And again, you know what we should start doing with the experiments? Start looking into like who backs like that institute. Like, I wonder if it's like more of like the Rockefeller Foundation.
True. It's like a government funded thing, but who knows? It? Yeah.
What's it called again? The
National Institute for Mental Health.
Institute.
NIMH.
Mental Health. And I'm just gonna put in Rockefeller.
I'm sure Rockefellers have a hand in everything.
Right? I wonder. Yeah, there's... No, that's their institute. I wonder. I'll look into it later. But yeah, interesting.
Update to follow.
Interesting. Because that family's from New York, too.
True.
All right. So, what else from that experiment? Anything?
Yeah, there was one little piece that I found interesting, which was they all eat, like all the rats would eat in a big group. And they were so used to that they, once separated, they couldn't eat by themselves.
Wow.
They would need other rats around to feel comfortable enough to eat, because they associated eating as like a community activity, and they didn't feel like it was, I don't know if it was like safe or just like comfort level. It was weird. They couldn't eat alone.
Really?
Yeah.
But then also antisocial tendencies.
Yes. Very strange.
That's interesting. I wonder. I'm trying to think of something that's similar to that with people. I can't actually think of anything.
Well, if you think about it, all of the antisocial people tend to flock together.
That's true.
Like all the all the kind of weirdos end up in big groups together.
Yeah, of course.
And we're seeing that a lot in even politics.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of voice.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, that's true. They do get together.
Even though they are, like, if, I don't know, one of them was talking to either of us, we'd probably consider them antisocial. Because they don't really know how to interact with people
But they all end up together.
Yeah, exactly.
Those alphabet boys. Those alphabet boys and girls and theys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. That's pretty cool. All right. Anything else?
No, that was it.
All right, guys. Like the video. It helps so much. If you've watched to this point, you obviously like it. like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed. It helps so much. Boost us out of the shadow realms. We're tired of being stuck in universe 25. We need to go elsewhere. Yeah. Boost us out of the shadow realms, please. And other than that, I'm out.
Bye.
Bye. More experiments to come.